It's always incredibly difficult talking about crimes that involve children, even harder to dive into the research and absorb all the horrific facts. As a parent myself, it's particularly jarring to see the reactions of the victims' friends and their family during the worst time of their lives. I can't imagine what I would do if, God forbid, something was to happen to one of my own kids, but I can assure you I wouldn't be reacting with the same courage and grace as the family of Alana Calahans. Alana was a bright, vivacious 14-year-old whose life was tragically ended by someone she knew and she trusted. 14-year-old Lacy Aaron Schmidt, otherwise known as Aaron, chose to target Alana, ending her life in an execution-style shooting, and to this day, his reasons for doing so are unclear. Despite having been welcomed into the Callahan household, treated like part of the family, and even accompanying the family on vacations, Aaron broke their hearts and their trust in the space of only 7 minutes. Hey everyone, welcome to Killer Consequences, the channel where we look at everything true crime. Don't forget to smash that like button, ring the bell, and subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, not only so that you get notified when I upload, but it helps the channel grow so that we can reach as many people as possible and bring voices to the families. I'm Alyssa J. Let's jump right in. Alana May Callahan was born on the 23rd of October 1996 to her parents Betty Jo and Paul Callahan. The Callahans were a large military family with 6 children: Jason, Amanda, Haley, Alana, Paul Jr. and Chase. In May 2010, Betty Jo and Paul decided that they wanted to move outside the city in order to give their children more freedom, and quickly decided that Harlem in Columbia County, Georgia was the perfect place to raise their family. Harlem's a small rural town, very laid-back, community-minded. It's often described as quaint and safe, and it seemed to be the perfect place. Their new home on Miles Road was a semi-rural property with a large yard that backed onto the woods, giving the children plenty of space to play and ride their dirt bikes and whatever. The house was set back from the road, and it was quite private as well. Alana was a happy, friendly 14-year-old who's described by her family as being incredibly sweet and loving. She always had a smile on her face, and she had the ability to light up any room she walked into. She had lots of friends at Harlem Middle School, where she was in the 8th grade. She was active in her local church and also attended youth group. Alana just loved her friends and family and enjoyed a close relationship with her siblings, which is something you don't always see. Being a large family, there were of course certain rules to follow. The most important being there was no shoes to be worn in the house, but generally the kids were allowed the freedom to just be themselves. The family was social, and the kids would often have friends over after school as well. Life was just happy. Alana's younger brothers, Paul and Chase, had become friendly with one of their neighbours, a boy Alana's age by the name of Aaron Schmidt. Aaron had a somewhat different upbringing to the Callahans, having been raised in the foster care system. He had been moved around a lot and was currently living with a much older sister. Unfortunately for Aaron, his mother was a drug addict, and his father was serving a very lengthy prison sentence for sexually violent crimes. Aaron had been bounced around from family to family before moving to Harlem in order to attend Grovetown High School, where there was a program for kids with behavioural issues. Aaron was frequently at the Callahans' house, hanging out with the 2 younger boys, riding dirt bikes, riding ATVs, joining the family for meals, and over time he became closer and closer to the family, even joining them on holidays. The Callahans treated him as part of the family, even buying him Christmas presents and birthday presents. They welcomed him into the family with their arms wide open. Betty Jo treated him like he was her own son, the same as she did with all her children's friends. They knew a little of his home life, but they were happy to share their own with him. In return, Aaron would help with tasks such as chopping wood, doing yard work. Betty Jo was just really happy that her kids had found a good friend and trusted him completely. Alana and Aaron had even dated briefly, before Alana broke it off, saying that she was too young to have a boyfriend. I mean, they were only 14, and her focus was on school, where she was a straight-A student. She was focused on her girlfriends, social media, just your typical teenage girl. It didn't affect their dynamic at all, and Aaron continued to spend time with the family. On the January 26th, 2011, however, there was an incident which caused the family's trust in Aaron to be called into question. Alana had come home from school and walked the half a mile, which is approximately 800 metres, from the road to the house. Her mother and elder sister Amanda, who usually would meet her off the bus, were at an appointment, so Alana was the first one home. Upon entering the house, she heard a strange noise and realised that she wasn't alone. Alana armed herself with a knife and a pair of scissors, intending to confront the intruder. She walked through the entire house, even though she was terrified, determined to find whoever was hiding. All of a sudden, Aaron jumped out from the bathroom, scaring Alana to death. Betty Jo and Amanda arrived home shortly after, and when Alana told them what had happened, confronted Aaron to find out what he had been doing alone in their house. Aaron claimed that it was a prank and that Amanda had left the front door unlocked. Both Betty Jo and Amanda knew that this was a lie, because they remembered Dad bolting the door before they had left the house. Alana was completely freaked out and angry at Aaron for scaring her. This wasn't just a prank, this was something else that they'd never seen from Aaron. Betty Jo sat him down and told him that there would be new boundaries from now on. Aaron was not to be at their house alone or without an adult present. This meant that Betty Jo, Paul, or Amanda would need to be there at all times. Betty Jo felt that Aaron had abused her trust by entering her property without permission, and she was angry he had lied to her face. Now, I honestly don't know what I personally would have done in this situation, but I probably would have called the police or something, maybe spoken to his sister. Imagine coming home to find out that your house has essentially been broken into, and your 14-year-old is home alone and terrified. What would you do in the case? Leave a comment below. I'd be interested to know how you'd react. I know I'm a helicopter parent, so maybe I'm overacting, but for myself, there's absolutely no way I would have given Aaron another chance. Betty Jo thought that would be the end of it, but she wasn't prepared for what was to happen next. On January 31st, Alana had arrived home from school as usual at about 3:15 p.m. After Amanda picked her up, the girls got home and settled in to do their own thing. Amanda wanted to watch TV a bit before driving to pick up 8-year-old Chase, who caught the later bus. Alana, meanwhile, hopped onto the family computer to check on her Facebook. A little while later, waiting to the last possible second because she wanted to finish her TV show, Amanda asked Alana if she wanted to drive their dad's car to pick up Chase instead, and Alana said no, she just wanted to keep uploading her pictures. So Amanda jumped into the car and left Alana at home. It wouldn't have been about more than 6 or 7 minutes before Amanda and Chase returned. Walking into the front door, Amanda was surprised to see that Aaron's shoes were next to the door, near Alana's. A little angry that Aaron had ignored the new rules laid down by Betty Jo only a week prior, Amanda walked through the house calling out for both the teens. No answer. She got to the living room where Alana had been on the computer to see an absolute mess. There were red stains all over the carpet that were initially taken for Kool-Aid. The chair that Alana had been sitting on was completely overturned and lying up against the back sliding door that was now open. As she's, trying to process all this, Aaron suddenly burst through the open door and said, "Someone took Alana." He then described how he'd seen a man dressed in a hoodie taking Alana through the backyard toward the woods. Completely in shock, Amanda grabbed her brother Chase and followed Aaron into the backyard. As they entered the tree yard, only a few yards from the house, Amanda saw her sister lying on the ground. Now, Alana had a small wound on her chin, but no other visible injuries. Initially, Amanda thought that she'd been stabbed by this intruder. 8-year-old Chase stood at Alana's feet with tears running down his face as he begged his sister to get up and wash her face because Mummy was going to be mad. But Alana didn't move. Aaron was standing at her head and he bent down to pick up some sticks, and Amanda yelled at him because as he was trying to untangle the sticks from her hair, all she could see was blood starting to gush out. And that's when Aaron told her that there was a hole in the back of her sister's head. Amanda had started doing CPR and also called 911. Honestly, just listening to this tape gives me the chills. It is a little hard to hear, but I think it's important to understand the pain and the terror that 18-year-old Amanda was feeling.
Yeah. Not breathing? No. Okay, hold on 1 second.
Lift your nose, tilt her head back, and look 2 times into her mouth.
What's going on with my mouth? I can't breathe.
Somehow she's managing to keep it all together and follow instructions until first responders arrived. Amanda later said that she was in shutdown and didn't even realise police were at the house until they asked her to move aside so paramedics could try to help Alana. As they battled to save her sister's life, Amanda pulled Chase and Aaron aside to ensure they weren't in the way. More and more police were arriving on the scene now and noticed something that Amanda hadn't. There was a visible trail of blood leading from the back door toward the wooden area where Alana lay. Police quickly taped off the entire yard to try and preserve as much evidence as possible. Unfortunately, despite all their best efforts, Alana was gone. Betty Jo was at work when she received a phone call letting her know that Alana had been hurt. She raced home, arriving to total chaos and her home overrun with law enforcement. As she drove down the driveway, Betty Jo saw Aaron Schmidt standing next to a police car and Amanda and Chase standing on the front porch. Honestly, I can't even put myself in Betty Jo's shoes right now. She's at work, she gets a phone call saying the Alana's been hurt, races home to chaos, is prevented from holding her daughter by police. She's got 2 other children that are traumatised at the complete situation, and then she has Aaron, who she treats as one of her own. She would have had no idea what was going on, and the fact that no one was able to give her answers would have been horrible, to say the least. Brian Jones of the Columbia County Sheriff's Office received a call from dispatch asking him to attend a shooting out on Mile Road, and that an unknown assailant had fled the scene. He arrived at the Callahan property and took control of the scene, speaking to the deputies and trying to establish exactly what had happened. A couple of the first responders mentioned that they had been watching Aaron, that he stood out to them as acting strangely. Upon arrival to the scene, Amanda was hysterical, as you would expect, and as the rest of the family arrived, they too showed appropriate behaviour. Aaron, however, almost looked as though he was forcing himself to look sad and fake crying whenever he observed someone watching him. It was as though he was mimicking what he thought was the appropriate behaviour, despite not feeling any emotion at all. Amanda and Aaron were asked to come to the station to give their statements as the crime scene was processed. For Amanda, this was especially grueling and exhausting, enduring a 4-hour interview where she was asked to repeat everything that had just happened over and over, reliving the trauma of the events each time. She was also asked to draw a map of the yard in order to help police piece together all the information. Amanda eventually began to feel as though she was a suspect. She wanted to help, and she wanted to find whoever had murdered her sister, but having to relieve the horror must have been terrible for the 18-year-old. Aaron Schmidt initially claimed that someone had entered the house and taken Alana, so law enforcement formed a manhunt, with officers from neighbouring counties door-knocking and searching through the entire neighbourhood to find the unknown man. All they had to go on was that he was wearing a hoodie and was a tall man, so they went searching. During questioning, however, police noticed that Aaron was giving really vague details, making generalised statements and varying descriptions of the unknown attacker. Police were at the house receiving information from the investigators in real time. All the details provided by Amanda and Aaron were being relayed through, including Amanda's hand-drawn map. Despite this, police were getting frustrated at the lack of definitive details. They had canine units out patrolling the area between the crime scene and the house, trying to locate the scent of the intruder, giving them a starting point for the search. However, the dogs were only able to locate one scent, Aaron Schmidt's. It became clear that Aaron's story wasn't matching up with what they were finding. He was telling police that the attacker had burst in while Amanda was collecting her brother, grabbed Alana and dragged her to the woods, where Aaron chased after him. When Aaron heard Amanda return, he ran back to the house, giving investigators a timeline of approximately 6 or 7 minutes for all of this to occur. It didn't match up with what they were being told, though. It simply wasn't possible. Police were beginning to suspect Aaron knew more than he was letting on, so they decided to go back to Amanda and ask her about life in the Callahan household. She was asked to describe some of the basic rules, and she told them that the main rule was that they took their shoes off before entering the house. Aaron's shoes had been at the front door when Amanda returned. However, he'd put them back on before going to the police station. When the police heard this, they asked Aaron to again remove his shoes. Upon seeing that Aaron's socks had blood all over the top of them, not under the sole where you would expect if you'd walked in blood, but on top of his foot.
Quit taking shoes off.
Like I was saying, I don't know who is true. I don't know his name though. I know what's the truth. You know, I'm trying to get the truth, but every time I try to say it right now, it comes right back down to me.
We know.
But I was not the only person there, I swear to God. If I had a video camera, I would have put it on.
Let me see something. Let me sit down. Let me see. Lift him up. Lift him up. Lift him up. Lift him up. Okay. Hey, here's yet another piece of the puzzle.
On top of my foot.
On top of your feet. How is it you get blood on top of your feet walking around on it in the floor?
I'm trying to tell y'all, but I just have to tell y'all that one part.
Okay.
Because it aimed the gun at me. I didn't know if it was going to...
Where did the gun come from?
Huh?
Where did the gun come from?
I don't know, sir. He was going to aim it at me and ask me the dirty word.
What kind of gun did it look like?
It looked like a 9mm.
Okay.
To be honest. Because
guess what we found as far as around that target practice area out there? Guess what we found?
What?
9mm casings.
What at?
Around that target area that you said you and target practice. Remember, I heard you say it. The target practice.
But I never knew about a 9mm. Only knew about a 308.
We found some casings around there, so obviously we know there's a 9mm up there somewhere. What's going to happen if they find that gun? And it's got your fingerprints on it, and on top of that, it's got gunshot residue on your hand. How are we going to explain that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I did not shoot her.
Did you see it happen?
Yeah.
Why would you tell Amanda?
Because she was trying to say I was being bad. And try to hurt Alana.
How would that be?
I don't know, sir. I know.
Listen, the only way we're going to do anything as far as trying to explain to Alana's mom what really happened is for you to just go ahead and let us know what happened. And that way
I'm telling you right now, but God.
You telling us some. Listen to me. It's not all.
I did not pull the trigger.
But
I
like I
walked
said,
in when it's going to happen.
So if we find the gun, or we find the fingerprints on the trigger, and we find all that stuff is yours, I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't matter.
I know, because I took off my shoes and I went there and felt that too.
But the blood's on the top of your feet, so I mean,
I know, because I had to lift up the light.
Why didn't he do it?
He said he didn't want to get any blood on him. I don't know if they're kind of shoot. I don't know it. It was some kind of short, fattish, brownish person. He ain't too short.
You just said before it was a tall black.
I know, but I had to say that so he don't get on me. I know who he is, though. I know who he is, but I don't know his name.
Where does he live?
He's a guy who likes shooting all his weapons down the road. Y'all probably think I'm lying about it.
Aaron, I don't think you're lying. I think you're scared to death. And I think you're trying to figure out a way to make some sense out of what happened. But there ain't but one or two ways I can look at it. And you go with me on this. We all know, sitting in this room, there was no second man.
There was.
Listen to me.
I'm not lying about the guy, though.
Listen to me.
I did not stand there making up this lie about this dude standing there with it.
Listen to me. Aaron, you're going to listen to me? I can tell you, with every bit of certainty of us sitting here, just like he can, there was no other man. So this boils down to one of two things.
Please, right down to me.
Now listen to me. It is either somebody that went over there with the intention of hurting Alana, and this was a premeditated, cold-blooded deal, or the only other thing it could be was things got a little out of hand, and it was a complete and total accident. And that person that did it is scared to dang death right now, trying to figure out how to make it right. It's one of the two.
I couldn't hurt her, not when
Not purposely.
No, I never will hold a firearm without I was told. That's the main rule. I'm not supposed to.
You know one thing that I know? I told you, it's not going to add up. You can say it, you can try to believe it, but you know it doesn't add up. If it was an accident, say it was an accident. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm not trying to trick you.
Nobody's going to end up as I.
You don't even know what's going to happen any more than I do.
I don't want to hurt her feelings.
You don't want to hurt whose feelings?
Her feelings.
Alana's?
Her mom.
Her feelings are already hurt, Aaron. How much more hurt could they be?
I didn't mean to hurt her.
All right, then what happened?
She was goofing her out, and I was goofing her out. But first, I went over there to tell her that I couldn't be over here for 2 weeks, like I was saying. Because I know Amanda kind of a little bit forgets stuff when she's doing a lot of busy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, and she said she wanted to go outside and let's go and do something. Well, I didn't know the gun was loaded.
Okay. And what happened?
And she was acting like she was pulling the trigger. And I said, don't do that. And I took it away. And I went to go try to go put it up so I can go leave. And it went off.
Where was she at when it went on?
I went out where the computer was. Over at the computer.
How close to you were you when it went on?
I had it right there in my hand. I was grabbing it and taking it away.
It was the fact that Aaron had observed the Callahans' rule without question and removed his shoes upon entry that blew his story to pieces. When confronted with the evidence, Aaron changed his story, and he admitted to shooting Alana himself, although he claimed it was an accident. According to Aaron, Alana had got the gun first, and while the teens were playing with it, it went off suddenly, shooting Alana. Aaron panicked and dragged her body through the yard into the woods, throwing the gun into the trees. Police knew now that he was responsible for the murder, and Aaron Schmidt was placed under arrest. Police gathered the Callahan family together to inform them that Aaron had confessed to the shooting. Alana's sister Haley states, I was in denial. I was in denial about them stating that it was Aaron. I was in denial of wanting to accept that it could have been him. I was in denial because we had loved Aaron. We welcomed Aaron into our family. We thought of Aaron as our own family member, let alone his sibling. Amanda describes the moment she heard that Aaron Schmidt was responsible for his sister's death as emotions riding pretty high. My mum was perplexed. She didn't want to believe he did it either. I was relieved that they were able to find Alana's killer, but I was also angry at the fact it turned out to be Aaron. Although Aaron had confessed to shooting Alana accidentally, police didn't believe that version of events at all. The evidence they had collected and the details just didn't match up. Police learned that there had been unexplained occurrences at the Callahan house for a while. At first we thought we had misplaced a few MP3 players, especially with Alana, Paul and Chase being in school. We figured they were taking them to school, they just forgot them or let a friend borrow them, and they were temporarily misplaced. Amanda had also lost a set of house keys. Following Aaron's arrest, police executed a search warrant on his bedroom, and were able to recover the Callahan's missing items. They also found something a lot more sinister, which led them to believe that this had been premeditated. Police were able to recover a box of ammunition and the lockbox that Paul Callahan kept his 9mm handgun in from Aaron's room, along with an operations manual and assembly instructions. Betty Jo Callahan hadn't even known the gun was missing from her house. Whilst there were several guns on the property, these were always kept away from the children and disassembled to prevent accidents. As Amanda explains, my dad was very strict about guns. Children were not allowed to have guns. If he was not home, you did not touch his guns. Nothing. While the guns were always kept in my parents' room, my dad would completely take apart his handgun and keep it in different parts of his clothing in his dressers. The gun itself was locked away. Betty Jo realised that the prior Wednesday, when Aaron had been alone in the house, prior to Alana surprising him, he had been in the process of searching Betty Jo's room and going through all their clothes to find all the pieces of the gun. When police retrieved the murder weapon, there was further evidence to state that the shooting had not been accidental. Now, okay, obviously I'm from Australia. We don't have anywhere near the gun violence that the US does. That's not to say that we don't have crimes involving guns or that they don't exist at all. All you got to do is look at Port Arthur to see that we have our fair share. But even though I live in the country where it's all farmland and guns are just a way of life, to me, guns are bad, guns are scary, and the fact that there is so many accidental shootings does my head in. With all that being said, I understand that people living in the US feel differently about firearms and the whole constitutional right to bear arms argument. Fair enough, each their own. But, couldn't you use a baseball bat or something to defend yourself instead of a lethal weapon? Just my thoughts, don't come for me. Despite all that, the Callahans did everything they possibly could in order to ensure their family's safety, and my hat absolutely goes off to them for that. Now, I really don't know anything about guns. I've never even held one. So apologies if this description's vague at all, because it is important. The weapon was a 9mm handgun registered to Paul Callahan. It was found where Aaron had tossed the gun into the woods with the hammer still in the cock position. This showed that he had to deliberately cock the weapon before firing. In addition, it would have taken 13 pounds of pressure to pull the hammer back, meaning that there was simply no way it could have been accidentally pulled back by pulling it out of your pocket or whatever. The evidence clearly disproved Aaron's claims that he had shot Alana by accident. Instead, evidence pointed to the fact that Aaron had entered the Callahan's home, removing his shoes by habit and placing them near Alana's at the front door. Wearing only his socks, he was able to sneak up on Alana where she was sitting on the computer. He then held the gun to the back of her head and fired once, execution style. The bullet exited through Alana's chin, which was the small wound that Amanda would later see. There was no evidence to state that Alana was at any time aware that Aaron was in the house before he took her life in a senseless and inexplicable act of revenge. Alana Calahans' funeral was held on February the 5th, 2011, and a year later, on February the 6th, began the trial of Lacy Aaron Schmidt. Aaron faced 4 charges, these being malice murder, felony murder while in the commission of aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of the crime of murder, and theft by taking a handgun. I'll admit, I had to do research on these charges. Being Australian, having no concept of the US legal system, to me, murder is murder. And I wasn't exactly sure why Aaron was charged with both malice and felony murder. But it all comes down to intent. Malice murder requires the intent to kill somebody, either with express or implied malice. Felony murder doesn't require the intent to kill, only the intent to commit a felony that causes the death of another human being. So, by being charged with both, the prosecution stated that Aaron had intended to kill Alana and had succeeded in carrying out his crime, knowing that it would ultimately cause her death.
It took Amanda Callahan to get in her truck, drive down the driveway, and pick up Chase, who was already off the bus by the time she gets to the end of the driveway. She picks Chase up and drives all the way back down the driveway and walks in her house. The defendant has managed to shoot Alana Calahans in the back of the head and drag her body 200 feet behind her house. By all accounts, she never saw what was coming. She may not have even known that he was there. She was shot in the back of the head. It exited out the front of her mouth.
Before he was 5, his mother was extensively doing drugs, physically, emotionally, and sexually abused Aaron. What you'll hear during Aaron's statement is 4 hours of a 14-year-old kid, and as the cop says, scared to dang death about what happened and trying to figure out what happened. This was not premeditated. He did not plan this out. And we are confident the evidence will show that this is a case, truly, of a 14-year-old child who has been abused, traumatized, and neglected his entire life, who snapped.
He came over every day. He ate. It's okay. You need to do it. It's okay. He ate dinner at our table. I treated him like he was one of my own kids. We bought him birthday presents, and we bought him Christmas presents, and we even took him on family trips with us.
We're all just like brother and sister. He had said, "Oh my God, someone took Alana." and I don't know what to do.
Was she breathing?
A little.
Okay. And were you able to revive her?
No, ma'am.
There were several times where he began to get upset, and so he was crying.
All right. And did he have any tears?
Not that I saw.
He walks up to Alana Calahans. He shoots her right in the back of the head. Poor, pitiful Alana Calahans. Poor, pitiful Betty Jo and Paul Callahan for taking this guy into their home, feeding him at their table, treating him like a son. She will never go to high school. She will never graduate from high school. She will never go to college, and her father will never walk her down the aisle.
As to count one, we, the jury, find the defendant, Lacy Aaron Schmidt, guilty of malice murder. As to count two, we, the jury, find the defendant, Lacy Aaron Schmidt, guilty of felony murder. As to count three, we, the jury, find the defendant, Lacy Aaron Schmidt, guilty of possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. As to count four, we, the jury, find the defendant, Lacy Aaron Schmidt, guilty of theft by taking.
You have to serve a term of life in prison without possibility of parole, plus 5 years. That's the total sentence.
It was a short trial, only running 3 days. Aaron maintained his innocence throughout, despite the overwhelming evidence against him. The jury would go on to find him guilty on all counts. On March 2nd, 2012, Aaron Schmidt was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for the malice murder charge, 5 years to be served consecutively for the firearm possession, and 10 years, also consecutive, for the theft charge, meaning that he would never again be free during his lifetime. Aaron's team appealed his sentence, however, claiming that the judge failed to instruct the jury as to the possibility of an involuntary manslaughter conviction instead of malice murder. They also claimed that due to his age, life without the possibility of parole was cruel and unusual punishment. The appeal was heard in September 2015, and the verdict and sentencing were upheld. As of today, Aaron remains at Hayes State Prison, which is a high-security prison for adult males in Georgia. He continues to search for loopholes in the system that will allow his sentence to be reduced, but as of now, continues to be unsuccessful. In all honesty, the fact that he appeals his sentence and claims cruel and unusual punishment demonstrates to me at least his complete lack of remorse and inability to accept responsibility for his actions. Not once has he shown the Callahan family an ounce of humanity, instead lying to them, taking advantage of their generosity, and breaking their trust. He callously took Alana's life for no other reason than he was angry that she had told on him, and that he was having to deal with the consequences of his actions. He wasted police resources with his lies and attempts to misdirect blame, and not once did he ever show an ounce of remorse throughout his trial. Even now, he continues to cry poor me, describing his actions as teenage shenanigans. Well, I'm sorry, mate, but stealing a gun and a week later holding that gun to your friend's head and firing a single shot, let alone all the lies and attempts to conceal your part in it, that isn't shenanigans. That's cold-blooded murder. And in my belief, Aaron was given the sentence he deserved. In fact, he was lucky not to receive a death sentence. In the 12 years since Alana's murder, the Callahans have done everything in their power to keep her memory alive, creating a Facebook page dedicated to Alana's memory, which I will link below. There's media relating to this case. I'll put links to documentaries below. I really encourage you all to watch them, even if just to get the first-hand accounts from the people involved. Alana's family are aware of this video, and I'm sure they'll be reading your comments. So please keep things respectful. Please be aware that somebody could be reading them. Thank you for joining me today and helping me to raise awareness about Alana. I'll be back next week with another case, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so that you can get notified when it goes up. And until then, keep your minds open and your doors locked.